Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Cindie Chavez here. Today is Wednesday, August the 15th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Your first daily dose of happy for the day. And I woke up this morning not feeling all that happy, actually. I didn't get a lot of sleep. I was doing all the wrong things. I was stressing. I wasn't doing my meditation properly. Nothing was going right. It just wasn't a good night. But I woke up this morning and I said, okay, I got to do something about this. And tried doing some mirror exercise. Oh, no, I just had no tolerance for that. And tried to do some meditating. Oh, no tolerance for that either. And so finally, Cindie, you know what I did? I went to a website that I had set up an account on, a while back called Happify.com. And Happify.com is a website where it's also an app. You can get it on iPhone and Android phones. It's an app and a website where you can do a bunch of activities that help pick up your mood. And there's one particular game on there. I think it's called Uplift. It's like these little balloons, hot air balloons you click on in order to get points. And it always makes me feel a little bit cheerier, a little bit better. So I figured, okay, I'll try that this morning because I hadn't played around on that site in quite some time. And sure enough, it worked. I'm feeling better. So it just goes to show anything that you can do to get yourself into a better frame of mind, even if it's not your normal routine, you keep casting around till you find the thing that works for you.
It's like the Sudbury method.
Right, exactly.
I love that you said that. Like, I tried this, I tried that, and then, hey, this thing worked.
Yeah. So
yes, yeah, so you were telling me that the hot air balloons that you click on have like positive words.
Yeah, yeah. They have all these hot air balloons. So you have like this vista. Usually like maybe like a desert scene, someplace where you'd expect to see a whole bunch of hot air balloons taking off at 6 p.m. or something like that. And in this scene, all of a sudden, these hot air balloons appear on your screen. They're all kind of floating around. And each balloon will have a word that will appear on it for about a second or two, and then it'll fade out, and another word will replace it. And the words are either of a positive nature or a negative nature. If you click on a positive word, you get a plus score. If you click on a negative word, you get a minus score. And the balloons are moving all over the place. So, of course, you're trying to, find where you're going to click on the thing. And you got to make sure you click the right one. You don't want to click something that says, oh, woe was me, or whatever. and you get enough balloons going on the screen there, and you're kind of frantically going along like, oh, click. No, not that one. Click. It kind of picks you up a little bit.
It's funny. What are some of the positive words?
Oh, geez, like thrive, warm, love, serene, happy, joyful. I mean, all the kind of positive words you can possibly think of, really. It's quite a collection they've got.
Well, when you were describing it right now and you were like, they're all floating around and it's happening really fast. And you're like, click. Oh, no, not that one. And I thought, oh, that's a perfect example of like training our brain to say no to things that aren't uplifting.
Right. Uplifting, like, literally.
Right away, like, oh, no, not going there. Right?
That's what's so fun about it, too, because it's a balloon. It's a hot air balloon image. And you use the word uplifting. That's what the name of the game is, Uplift. And it's all about being uplifting. It's, they're playing every single metaphor they can play there, but it's great. It just makes you feel better because you're focusing on positive stuff, even though it's just little pictures on a screen. It's all a video game is anyway, right? But
you get that idea that our brain, like when we watch movies or whatever, or we tell stories, that our brain doesn't really recognize whether it's true or not, doesn't really recognize if it's really happening. So when we watch a scary movie, say, our body still produces all the, brain chemicals that it would produce if we actually were having that experience.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so that makes sense to me. It's like you're feeding your brain, ideas that are uplifting.
And
I think it's great.
And indeed, that's what the whole concept behind the Happify.com or Happify app is. Because it's literally created by a bunch of people, a variety of different people have contributed to it. And they're all drawing upon the realm of positive psychology and what positive psychology has produced in terms of, here's how you can, improve your mindset. Here's how you can improve your mood. Here are things you can do to stay focused on positives rather than negatives. Here's what happens when you remove the stress by doing these things. I mean, all this kind of stuff. That body of knowledge is what was used to build the Happify app and the Happify website. And it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. You sound happy to me.
Well, thank you. I didn't half an hour ago. a half an hour ago, I was like, oh, jeez. I
Well,
wasn't terribly looking forward.
I have a compassion for anyone who has struggled to get a good night's sleep. It makes such a big difference. And it's one of the reasons why it's one of the questions I ask occasionally when I'm coaching someone is, how are you sleeping?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it makes a huge difference to how we feel. It's something we need. And a lot of people don't get enough sleep. I know I've been in that situation, and it wasn't for lack of trying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I was doing all the things.
Sure.
But some people are not sleeping because they just don't go to bed. I mean,
there's that too. Yeah.
They stay up too late, either working or playing or whatever they're doing, and deprive themselves of sleep because they don't really think they need it, maybe, but it's important. So,
well, we recognize them. They're the ones we see in the zombie movies.
Hey, I have felt like I looked like that on occasion. Kind of dragging through. Oh. So I'm very thankful for. It's kind of funny. For years, I never had a problem sleeping, and I got a good night's sleep and got up and was ready to go. And then I had a period of time where I did have trouble sleeping, and boy, ever since that experience, I never take for granted a good night's sleep. When I sleep well, I'm like grateful, or I should say, I appreciate it deeply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We talked yesterday about appreciation.
Appreciation versus gratitude. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so it is definitely, appreciation is a deeper level of gratitude. I thought it was interesting that in our discussion yesterday, one of the things that we read was that Abraham's take on gratitude was that gratitude was usually more of a thankful, thankful for, I started to say, for getting away with something, or I didn't mean it that way, but maybe thankful that something didn't happen, or thankful that we escaped like a dangerous situation, or thankful that we didn't have to experience some consequence of something, that kind of like, whoo, whew, that could, that could have been so much worse. Like, I'm so thankful that I didn't I got that kind of sense from it. And I've never thought of gratitude that way. But talking about it yesterday, definitely did see that appreciation is a whole different level than gratitude. It's deeper. It's I don't know what adjectives to describe it, but definitely a deeper, more rich experience than gratitude. It goes further, because the idea was that appreciation was the same vibration of love, and in the sense of how we feel when we're falling in love or in love, feeling like we're in love, that appreciation is also the same vibration as bliss.
Bliss, yeah. That one caught my attention too. A lot.
It's like, yeah, that's not what I generally think of when I think of gratitude. Just, I'm really grateful for blah, 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 whatever it is. And I might truly be grateful, but this is such a deeper thing. So.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, and yesterday was an eye-opener. Before yesterday, if you had asked me what the difference was, I still would have said that appreciation was a higher vibration or a happier feeling than gratitude. But my reason would have been gratitude is often tied to something you're supposed to do, something you should do. Oh, you should be grateful. Oh, you should be thankful for that. Like there's a little bit of a guilt attached to it, which really doesn't need to be there at all, but that's what people often do. And so I have that association too, and I don't have that association with the appreciation. So I figure, okay, that makes appreciation a little bit higher vibration. But I agree with you. After our conversation yesterday and finding that one little thing in the book, it was like one sentence that almost didn't even say it directly, it said it indirectly, but it basically equated appreciation with bliss. And I said, oh boy, have I been misunderstanding appreciation all these years. Because I mean, for me, appreciation was like, I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling optimistic. No, not blissful. Bliss.
Right?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I so much appreciate. That was not what I had in mind for appreciation. So I'm upping my game. I'm upping my appreciation of appreciation.
Yeah, it's we uncover a lot of things like that in our conversations, and it's always so great to walk away at the end of a podcast and have a new idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a bigger, deeper, broader understanding of a concept. It works for me.
That's one of the things that's really interesting about Abraham books, because on the surface, I especially saw this with Ask and It Is Given, the first one they put out. Ask and It Is Given, if you read it quickly, it just sounds like they're saying the same thing over and over and over again. And the other books, to a lesser extent, you get the same kind of feeling too. But when you look really in depth, when you're reading like word for word and sentence by sentence and evaluating what each one says and getting a feel for it and so forth, oh my God, we're finding all kinds of crazy stuff when we do these the way that we do them. And of course, we get into in-depth discussions about them, but wow, stuff just, it's almost like, how do we miss that the first time around? That's what I don't quite get. How do we miss that?
Well, I always encourage people to read books more than once, especially these types of books.
Oh, yeah, these especially.
Because for me, anyway, for decades, I've recognized that I'll pick up a book or maybe it was a book that I picked it up and began to read it, and it just didn't really resonate with me. It just was like hard to get into, or for whatever reason, I just put it down. And, a few years later, I'll pick it up again. For some reason, I'll feel led to read it. It keeps coming to mind, whatever. And I'll open it and it's like, wow, why didn't I like this book the first time? It's like, or I'll read a book that I really like, and when I go back and read it again, I'll think, did I skip this page? Because I don't remember this
exactly.
at all.
Yeah. I remember Wendy Dillard made a comment about one of the other books. I was in The Astonishing Power of Emotions, and it was a section on people who are struggling with weight loss. And Abraham made a comment in there. I don't remember the exact comment, but the gist of it was something like, if you are thinking about going into an ice cream parlor, or you're thinking about walking away from the ice cream parlor, and you go in with the idea that maybe you're going to eat like 100 or 1,000 tubs of ice cream, it doesn't really matter how much ice cream you're eating. It's what your mental state is going in. You could eat 1,000 tubs of ice cream, and you could go in with a positive mental attitude, and you won't put on any weight. And I remember Wendy saying, I'm sure that was there the first time I read it. I'm sure I skipped over it because I just said, oh, well, that's not true. And just moved on.
Right?
Just dismissed it entirely.
So it's interesting. It's interesting. It's a great picture of the way everything in our experience, everything in our universe, our environment is personal to us. Like we see it through our eyes.
Right.
And it mirrors to us really who we are. Mm-hmm. And so that's why a book like this, especially these types of books, personal growth books. I mean, I'm not generally speaking of just like a novel or something, but books that you're reading to help you in some way. Mm-hmm. Those books, to me, they're different the second time, the third time you read them, because you're different.
Yeah, that's true. Because as our perception changes, then what we understand changes. We're filtering different stuff in different ways, and over time.
So, hey, you can really get your money's worth out of a book.
Yeah, that's true.
Just go back and go back.
I think there's also something to be said for discussing it, though. Because, if I'm reading a book and then I read it again, it's very easy for me to just fall asleep. Just not, okay, yeah, I read this before. But when you're talking about it with somebody else, now the other person says something about a particular line, and you say, well, yeah, I never really thought about it that way. And now all of a sudden it became interesting again. Something that would put me to sleep, That's what I noticed while we've been reading through the book, is that sometimes we'll read, one of us will be reading, and afterwards we'll both say what popped out at us while we were reading, and it'll be something different. Like the thing that stood out to you is different than what stood out for me. Yep. And I think that's really important to get a really full understanding. And I'm sure that we could, not that we would, but I'm sure that when we get to the end of this book, we could turn around and just start at the beginning, and we'd find a bunch more things probably
that hadn't popped out the first time. So
right.
It's great. It's the never-ending well of information that we can go back to and that will help us. So,
and plus, it's fun. I mean, when you're talking about it with somebody else, I mean, it's like listening to the podcast. Anybody who's listening, they're having fun too, just hearing us go back and forth about this thing. And regardless of whether you're a participant or just listening passively, it's fun to hear the different perspectives. It's fun.
It is, and that's a great time to invite people to call up and share their perspective with us. I was thinking
that's
about
a good
this,
point. Yes.
right? As you were talking about it, I was thinking that when we're reading, something pops out at you and something stands out for me, and the listener that are listening, they're probably having something stand out for them too. And it may not be what stands out for us. And I would love to know.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun. So if you're listening live right now, all the instructions on how to contact us while we're doing a podcast are, of course, on the homepage of our website at loatoday.net. But if you're just really not into the mood to go find the website, I'll give you the phone number right here. It makes it really easy. The phone number to call in the U.S. is area code 646-876-9923. And then there's an access code 860-264-5432. So I'll let you scramble for your pencil and pad for a moment. And while you're doing that, I'll also say for our international listeners, you can also find a list of international numbers. There's a link on the homepage that'll show you those. So depending on where you are in the world, you can also contact us that way, especially if you're actually listening despite the fact that our time zone and your time zone aren't the same. Like we have one listener that I can think of from Australia, and we were kind of comparing time zones, and we were realizing that while you and I are doing this show at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time, she would be listening at 10 p.m. Canberra time, I think it was. So basically the capital of Australia. And, well, okay, if you're listening during that time, there's a phone number for you. You can still contact us. You can still call in. So now that you got your pad and paper, here's the number again. It is area code 646-876-9923. And then the access code that you enter after that is 860-264-5432.
Yay. So loatoday.net is where you can find that if you didn't scramble for a pen.
That's right. It's all right there. You'll also find the schedule there, too. So, I mean, if you're listening to this as a recording, which most people do, and you're curious and you want to call in sometime, just go to the homepage. That's where you'll find the schedule. All of the different times that we do our live broadcasts that we record for the podcast are listed right there. So, by all means, check it out and join us.
Join us. And that's also where you can subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We would love you to become a subscriber.
Absolutely.
That's easy peasy right on the homepage as well.
And we are getting more people subscribing. More and more people are collecting information from the feed, so to speak. I was just looking at the numbers last night in the database, and we've had a surge lately. It actually started with when we started asking people about a week ago who are our existing subscribers to just post something on their social media about loatoday.net. Just include the phrase loatoday.net in something that's hopefully positive. Hopefully you like it. But the few people who have done that, most of our listeners haven't done it, interestingly enough, but a few have. And that has actually set off an increase in listenership. We're seeing more and more people connecting as a result of that. So,
excellent.
That's like really good. Imagine, Cindy, if we could get all of our regular listeners to post something on social media. Can you imagine what would happen to the listenership?
That would be great.
That'd be amazing. I mean, we would be breaking records in large ways.
I can see it. I'm just going to hold that vision.
Yeah. I mean,
I can see it.
Can you imagine having thousands, tens of thousands of unique listeners tuning into this thing? Wow.
Well, what I see when I imagine that isn't just, oh, wow, we have thousands of listeners or hundreds of thousands of listeners or whatever. But what I see is that's that many more people who are tapping into these kind of ideas. And those ideas and energy is put into practice in their life. So their lives are getting better and better. And I remember, I've actually had people comment to me. And so before this podcast, and before I was really teaching in a public way, I had people comment like, what do you do in your life to make so many great things happen? Like people could see that I was enjoying my life and that I had someone say, if I could manifest like you, oh my goodness. I was like, well, you can, right? I mean, anyone can do this. And so what I see of when I envision, tens or hundreds or tens of thousands or however many listeners, is the more it is that people are listening to these kind of ideas. It's not just our podcast, but this is what we're talking about on this podcast, right? How to deliberately create a better life for yourself. And so if all of those listeners begin to put these ideas into action and their lives become better and better, that energy, those good vibes, so to speak, they're contagious.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a better world starts happening.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess I didn't explain it very well when I was, going on about how many thousands of people wouldn't be great if they were all listening. But that's what I was imagining. I was imagining all like this. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a stream of people passing by me with happy smiles on their faces, and they're excited, and they're thrilled with their lives, and they're doing all these really interesting, fun things, and they're doing it by the thousands. And
I have the same type of.
It was like this parade that was going by, and that's why I was saying, "Oh my God, can you imagine that?"
They're all floating by in those hot air balloons.
The hot air balloons, yes.
I love it. So yes, please subscribe, share, let people know that you're a listener of loatoday.net, and give us a call.
Yeah, help us spread this message, because so many people need to hear that, there's a positive entertainment source out there. There's something that actually focuses on good things instead of all the stuff that entertainment usually focuses on, like wars and struggles and pain and destruction and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, there's something that focuses on feeling good. How about that for a change?
And I love what we're doing this week in particular, because we've been working our way through the book Money and the Law of Attraction, Learning to Attract Wealth, Health, and Happiness, Esther and Jerry Hicks, The Teachings of Abraham. And we've gotten to one of the last sections in the book. And what we've been discussing in the past few podcasts is career and work. And most people have some type of career or work that they're doing. And if you're a student, that's your career or your work. If you're a mother, a homemaker, that's really hard work. Whether your labor, so to speak, is paid labor or unpaid labor, most of us have work that we're doing. And so I think that this chapter is so important because, it's kind of like we talked about sleep earlier. All the mattress companies, right, are always reminding you that you sleep 1/3 of your life or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Right. Well, I mean, we work, 1/3 of our life or more, most of us. And so it's so important that it's not a drudgery to us.
Boy, is that true. Oh,
that we don't, think about the person, and I've been this person. It's just terrible. Maybe I shouldn't even say it. It's terrible to think that someone would have a terrible night's sleep. So there's an awful struggling stretch of 8 hours where maybe they just slept a little bit here or there, right, and stressed about it. And then they go to 8 hours or more of a job that they just can't stand. Like, nobody wants to have that type of a day.
It reminds me of an old cartoon called Sad Sack. And Sad Sack was a guy.
I remember Sad Sack.
Remember that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
He walked around with a black cloud over his head.
Yep.
Continuously. Everything that happened in his life was terrible. It was frustrating. It was stressful. And it could be a bright sunny day, but he would have a black cloud over his head at all times. It was just hysterical.
I wonder who the cartoonist was, what inspired that character.
I don't know, but It probably didn't have to look too far, to be perfectly honest, when you consider how many people in the world are not terribly happy in their lives. He probably looked outside the window. That's as far as he had to go,
Yeah, wow. So I think that it's really important, this part of the book that we're touching on, because it just pretty much affects everyone.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right? And the little section that we've got today, we laughed about it earlier because this book I'm in the paperback and I'm on page 195, but the book is broken up into little segments. Like, there's lots of little subtitles. And so we usually find that that's really convenient for us as far as the podcast to break at one of those little subtitles. And some of them are the weirdest little sentences. Like, we always laugh about it. It's like, who wrote this subtitle? And this one says, my time at work is perceptual. And I said this morning before we started, yeah, I think Abraham wrote that one.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, you can always tell when it's a non-physical being writing a headline because it doesn't really connect to the physical world real well. It's kind of sort of there, but not totally.
Oh, it's so funny. I do a lot of writing, and I was thinking when you said that this would be funny if I asked a non-physical being, not that I do that very often, but to help me with my headlines of my articles, right? They might be all really weird. Who knows? I might get more readers.
You might get a new audience that way. You never know.
An audience of non-physical beings. So my time at work is perceptual. Abraham says, in the same way that many people are focused upon a shortage of money, there are also many who are focused upon a shortage of time. Ooh. And often these two lackful subjects are intertwined to negatively impact one another. Usually the reason for this detrimental coupling of lackful subjects is the feeling that there's just not enough time to do what's necessary to achieve success.
So was Abraham looking over my shoulder yesterday? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, maybe. The primary reason that people feel a shortage of time is because they're trying to get too much leverage out of their action. If you're unaware of the power of alignment and are making little or no effort at finding your personal alignment, if you are overwhelmed or angry or resentful or ornery, and from those emotional perspectives, you are then offering your action to try to accomplish things, you are very likely experiencing a severe shortage of time. That this reminds me of times when you're doing some kind of work or chores and you're not happy or you're angry, like it says in this paragraph, and that energy starts making things like not work smoothly. Mm-hmm. Like even the simplest of tasks, but then you drop something and that thing breaks and then you have to clean that up. And then, it's like one thing leads to another.
Oh yeah.
And that right there is the time waster, right? It's like everything starts taking longer.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, I can't be the only one who's had this experience.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah. That happens a lot. Yeah. What doesn't happen a lot though is seeing the word ornery in print.
I know, it made me laugh.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Esther Hicks and Abraham are the only people in my life who use the word ornery.
You know what? I think I used that word a couple weeks ago.
Did you really? Okay, well, I guess there's one more.
Well, and it was really funny because I was like, did that word just come out of my mouth?
Yeah,
but it seemed like the appropriate word at the time. Well, so this is what's interesting because in my recollection of times where things like this have happened, then there begins to be a real pressure because now the workload has just increased. I'm carrying a box of something and it slips and now I've got to clean all of this up before I'm already pressed for time. And now I'm trying to, and that's just the snowball of stress that happens there.
Yeah.
So Abraham goes on to say, there simply is not enough action in the world to compensate for the misalignment of energy. And that's true because what happens right then is that usually I go, okay, stop and take a deep breath. Stop and just slow down. Just stop. Like, you will get this done. You have to tap into some other place besides, and that's called alignment, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So there simply is not enough action in the world to compensate for the misalignment of energy. But when you care about how you feel and you tend to your vibrational balance first, then you experience what feels like a cooperative universe that seems to open doors for you everywhere. The physical effort required of someone who is in alignment is a fraction of that required to someone who is not. The results experienced by someone who is in alignment are tremendous in comparison with the results experienced by someone who is not.
Yeah, those two sentences are very, very important.
Yes.
Because they recognize something that doesn't get a lot of recognition. Because we both know what it's like to have that downward spiral go, and then you figure, okay, well, I got to try to work my way out of this. And inevitably everything, it's like the amount of time to get something done stretches out. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It takes longer, and what comes out at the end is worse than what it would have been if you didn't have that downward spiral. So the two sentences make sense. The physical effort of someone who is in alignment is a fraction of someone who is not, and the results experienced by someone in alignment are tremendous compared to those who have actions that are not in alignment. It's so true.
So I've heard when, not from law of attraction sources, but just in business in general, people will say work smarter, not harder. To me, that's just being in alignment. Because what we read in these two sentences is telling us that if we're in alignment, less physical effort will be needed for better results.
It also kind of reminds me of a key managerial concept. Anyone who's ever done managing will recognize this one. And anyone who hasn't done managing will still recognize it if I just say one word, and that word is delegate. The best managers are the ones who are able to delegate the work so that other people are doing all the jobs. The managers who turn their hair gray and develop the wrinkles and don't get any sleep at night are the ones who have trouble delegating. And it's really a true thing. If you're able to delegate, what you're really doing is giving yourself an out. You're giving yourself a way to not stay on that treadmill of action. And in the process, you're giving yourself an opportunity to get back into alignment in Abraham terms. Whereas the person who is not delegating is basically setting themselves up for failure, setting themselves up for frustration, where every single result comes out worse and nothing happens on time, and you're falling farther and farther behind, and that kind of thing. Well, if we take that analogy one step further, what we really want to do is we want to delegate to the universal manager. We want to delegate to the universe. Okay, universe, I need you to take over some of these tasks because there's far too many for me to deal with here. And plus, my overall mood is going downward as I'm focusing on them. So, hey, I'm going to give these off to you. You take care of these. I'll take care of this little bit over here, but you take care of those, and that way I can breathe a sigh of relief and feel better.
And I think that when we focus or tend to our alignment first, and that might not have anything to do with the task at hand, right? It might just be, I'm going to put some music on while I do this thing because it's uplifting.
Yep.
I mean, whatever it is that gets us into a place of alignment, then the things will just start to happen easier. And yes, then the universe can just start helping.
And that's
it's amazing sometimes the things that happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where at the end of it all, it feels like it was so easy.
It's one of the few times when I've really understood the concept less is more.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. So this next section that kind of winds this up is in italics. So that always tells us it's important. But it says if you're feeling a shortage of time or money, your best effort would be to focus upon better feeling thoughts, to make long lists of positive aspects, to look for reasons to feel good, and to do more things that make you feel good when you do them. Taking the time to feel better, to find positive aspects, to align with who you really are, will net you tremendous results and help you balance your time much more effectively. Shortage of time is not your problem. Shortage of money is not your problem. Shortage of connection to the energy that creates worlds is what is at the heart of all sensations of shortage that you are experiencing. Those voids or shortages can be filled with only one thing: connection to source and alignment with who you really are. Your time is a perceptual thing. And even though the clock is ticking, the same for everyone, your alignment affects your perception as well as the results that you allow. When you set time aside to envision your life as you want it to be, you access a power that is unavailable to you when you focus upon the problems of your life. as you observe the enormous differences in the effort that people apply and the results they achieve, you have to conclude that there is more to the equation of achieving than action alone. The difference is that some receive the benefit of the leverage of alignment because of the thoughts they think, while others disallow that leverage because of the thoughts they think. Imagine yourself running 1 mile, and in this mile, there are 2,000 doors to move through. Imagine coming to each door and then having to personally open it before you can run through it. Now imagine running the mile, and as you approach each door, the door is opened for you. So you're able to continue the pace, slowing not at all upon approaching each door. When you're in alignment with the energy that creates worlds, you no longer have to stop and open the doors. Your energy alignment allows things to line up for you, and the action that you offer is the way you enjoy the benefit of the alignment that you have accomplished.
What an interesting metaphor that is. Running and opening doors. I don't know where they got that one from. It's obviously a non-physical metaphor because it's not something that anybody ever actually does when they run a mile, but nevertheless, it's interesting.
It's a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I'm thinking about it, actually, in one sense, it depended on how you used it. I mean, the way they're using it here is they're demonstrating how frustrating it can be if you're trying to run, but you're having to open one door after another, after another, after another in order to continue your run. But by the same token, it might actually be a pretty good training technique if you're trying to really pick your speed up and so forth. Okay, gotta go. I mean, I could see how you could actually, build up your body doing that, but it would also build your frustration level up to the rafters. So it's a good metaphor. It's different, I have to say, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I don't think that's physically possible in the stretch of a mile to have 2,000 doors.
It would be a door every 2.5 feet.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Most doors are wider than 2.5 feet. So as they swing open, my brain was calculating. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's possible.
Well, basically, you'd have to open the door, and as the door's open, you have to grab the next door knob, and as the door's open, grab the next door knob, and as the door...
Frustrating, yes, but you'd be in great shape by the time you got to the end of the mile.
I mean, imagine how strong your arms would be after that.
I like the idea, though, that, and I've had this experience so many times of things just falling into place, and it was just so easy.
Mm.
It makes me wonder why I ever allow myself to struggle over anything when I know how easy it can be, but I still do on occasion.
I think about it a lot. I think about why is it that we do that? Because I know I do it too. And on the one hand, like you say, I know it's so much easier once I get myself into alignment. And yet, by the same token, when I'm in that not so good place or even that bad place, but the last thing I want to do is get into alignment because it takes some... I don't want to say effort because that sounds like I'm doing a physical action, but it takes some intensity. It takes some real focus. And very, very often when we're in that place, we don't really feel like doing that much focus. It's one of those, it's like a conundrum, so to speak. Why is it that when I want to get the energy, I have the least amount of interest in getting the energy?
Because I think, like you said, there's a perception that it's effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't have the effort to focus.
Yeah.
Instead of the idea of relaxing and floating downstream, which is what it really is.
It's like I don't have the energy to get the energy.
Yeah. And it's not really that.
No.
It's just resistance.
It's letting go of the resistance. Yeah.
And it's a relaxation to let go of it. It's not effort. So we've talked about this a lot, and it's another one of those really simple things that we need to be reminded of sometimes, and it's the breath.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowing ourselves that deep breath because stress is a symptom of shallow breathing. So I told you that somebody had sent me a message about something that was happening, and they sent me a text message. It was something very, very stressful that had just come up. And I sent a message back and said, breathe.
Mm.
And
Right.
they said, when I got your message, I realized I was holding my breath.
Ah, very nice. That's good.
So,
Actually, as you're describing that, I was thinking there is a method that I haven't talked about at all here on the podcast that I do use when I'm in that extreme place of, yeah, I need to get in alignment, but I really don't feel like doing it.
oh, share it, share it.
I know this sounds strange, and you could do a more comfortable version of it. I lie down on the floor, preferably a floor with a rug. And I just lie down and I just kind of sink into the floor for a moment. I mean, you can do the same thing with a nap, except I don't nap well. If I try to take a nap during the middle of the day, if I do fall asleep, I wake up. It's like, oh God, why did I have to wake up? I do not get refreshed like most people do. But when
I always feel a little jealous of these people who are like champion.
Oh, that's right.
nappers.
You're like me, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're the non-nappers. But for non-nappers, just lying down on the floor has probably the same effect without falling asleep, because you don't really tend to fall asleep when you lie down on the floor. But, presuming you have a relatively clean rug, lie down and just lie down for like 5 minutes and just let your entire body just relax and let the floor hold you up completely. And it changes your mood. It really does.
That's actually a yoga pose,
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, shoot, here I thought yoga was a whole bunch of effort. That's very non-effort. I like that one.
That's usually the last pose in a class sometimes, and it's the one everyone waits for because it's like, oh. But yeah, that's, when we were just talking about it, in getting into alignment and resisting that opportunity, it's like, oh, I know I'm out of alignment and I just don't feel like I have the focus. The image that flashed into my mind was the image of relaxing and floating downstream.
Yeah.
If you were on a raft and you were that was your whole job, was just to float and relax. And that's perfect. It's a perfect picture of what you're showing. It's just, I'm just going to lay down here on the floor for a few minutes and let my whole body just sink into the floor. I'm just going to let the earth support me. Right.
And that's it right there. It's the word support. Because I feel like when I'm in that negative place, I feel like I'm having to support everything. And I'm tired of it. And when I lie down on the floor, now my floor is doing all the supporting. It's supporting every inch of me. And now I can just relax into that support. And now I'm not having to do the support anymore. Something else is doing it. In this case, the floor.
Yes. This is such a great reminder. Thank you for that reminder.
You're welcome. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't mention it before. I think because I don't really think about it as a method for climbing out of a funk. Getting back into alignment. But as you were reading that section, I realized that's what I use it for, unconsciously, but that's what I use it for.
Yeah. Well, yesterday there was a whole section of words we don't usually associate with alignment, as they were explaining climbing out of a very deep place, because it was words like allow yourself to get angry and allow yourself to be frustrated and allow yourself. And I think that's important too, is that sometimes the stress that we're feeling comes from us not letting ourselves experience whatever the feelings are.
One of my wife's favorite things to suggest to somebody if they're feeling in that place is to grab a pillow and scream into the pillow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that way you can scream as loud as you want to. And nobody's bothered by it.
I mean, we have those feelings and we shouldn't judge them as bad or wrong. If we want to, we can recognize they're not the optimum feeling that we want to be having. Mm-hmm. But those feelings are giving us important information. They're showing us what we value. And so they're important. It's like you can't get mad at the red dashboard light. It's just trying to tell you that there's something going on in the engine that needs to be looked at.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it's the same when we have an emotion. So this is interesting. I just looked down to see the next little section. It kind of makes me laugh. Should I try to work harder?
Yeah. Well, that kind of ties in inversely to what we're talking about. Yeah.
I just wonder how many times collectively we've all heard those two words together, work harder.
Oh, yeah.
Or said those words.
More likely.
I need to work harder, right? Yep. So It's a really valid question.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham says, you are a powerful creator who came into this leading edge environment understanding that you would create through the power of your thought by deliberately directing your focus toward things that you want. You did not intend to rely on your action for that creation.
Yeah,
Wow,
that takes a little thought to say, really?
right?
That's what I did? I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe I did. And if I did, I must have forgotten about it, but
I think it's interesting. You know, we came into the world with the knowledge that we were going to come just create everything we wanted with our thoughts. And so we arrive here as this baby that really can't do anything.
That's true.
And right.
So we probably felt like we were the kings of the world.
Well, I mean, at the very beginning, you know, for most of us, hopefully, every all of our needs were being met. Everyone was, you know, we were being taken care of.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
It says it may take some time to adjust to the understanding that you are creating through your thoughts, not through your action. But we cannot overstate the value of thinking and speaking of things as you would like them to be rather than as they are. Once you not only understand the power of your thought, but you deliberately direct this powerful tool in the direction of things that you desire, then you will discover that the action part of your life is the way you enjoy what you have created with your thought.
Which is a different way of understanding what action is all about. But it certainly makes sense.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
Yeah, it certainly makes sense that...
It takes that word from working to enjoying.
Yes. Yeah, because now action is not about struggle. It's not about suffering. It's not about frustration. It's about enjoyment. It's about feeling good. It's about having fun. What a different way of experiencing action.
When you achieve vibrational alignment, which means your thoughts are pleasing as you think them, that's one to highlight, huh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And you feel an inspiration to act, you've accomplished the best of both worlds. Your action feels effortless when you're tuned into the vibrational frequency of source, and then you feel an inspiration to offer an action. Those outcomes are always pleasing. But action taken without tending to vibrational alignment first is hardworking, inefficient action that over time wears you down.
So here's the question then. If it over time is what wears us down, is that why we are constantly needing to sleep? Every day, every night, we want to sleep for ideally 8 hours, some of us for 3, but but we want to sleep. Is that because we are engaging in so much hardworking, inefficient action because we're taking action without being in alignment?
That's a good question.
I have a feeling it's true.
Yeah. Well, listen to this next part.
Okay.
Most are so busy dealing with that which is immediate that they do not have time to tend to that which is important. Many tell us that they're so busy making their money that they do not have time to enjoy it. For when you rely on your action to create, often you're too tired to enjoy your creation.
That's really true. I mean,
and that's what you're just talking about.
Yeah, that's it. Right.
You know, so that's really an interesting thing. I mean, I can't say that I can do this experiment, right? It's like, well, when I come back, you know, well, actually, I'll be back this afternoon. But when I come back, you know, next Wednesday morning, give me a week, and I'll let you know if I need to sleep. I'll just stay in alignment the whole time.
Well, first of all, if you pull off that experiment, I won't be as interested in knowing whether you slept. I'll be interested to know what it felt like to be in alignment all that time.
Right. And see, the story that I'm already telling is like, well, I know I can't do this.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's the bad part of the story. If we could turn that story around, that's a cool experiment. I mean, I don't even care if I sleep at that point. But
that's the question: is how much sleep? I think we'd still need sleep, and I say that because, well, look around at nature. Even plants sleep, animals sleep, and animals are pretty much in alignment. But would I need less sleep? would I be less tired? I guess maybe that's the way to put it. Would I be less tired if I was always making sure I never took any action without tending to my alignment first?
Oh, I think that's definitely true. I mean, we're talking about no sleep at all, and that's sort of an extreme situation.
Right.
And that's kind of fun to speculate about, but I'm not sure any of us are really to the point where we could literally test it with accuracy, because I don't know anyone who's in alignment 100% of the time. I know people who are
because most of us like to sleep. I mean, when it's good sleep, right?
Yeah. But on the other hand, I also know that if I'm really going, if I'm feeling great, and I've been feeling great all day long, going to sleep isn't all that interesting to me because I'm feeling so good.
Yeah.
Now, I really want to go to sleep when I'm tired.
Right. Because it's going to feel better.
Exactly. And this is what this section is basically saying to me. And I think it's true. I do get tired when I am working hard, when I am pushing hard, when I am trying hard, when I'm doing all this stuff. And what they're saying is trying hard is trying when you're not in alignment.
Exactly. Taking action. And usually when we're not in alignment, things don't go as smoothly, of course. So then we think we have to work harder, which was what this section was.
Right.
Should I work harder?
Yeah.
Then we think we have to I've even heard this phrase before in the business world and from like business coaches, right? And the phrase is massive action. Like you have to take massive action.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I never really
directly
understood
opposed to what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even before I understood law of attraction, I always kind of looked askance at that one. Like, what is all this massive action going to accomplish? Is what I wondered.
Right. So there's a question coming up.
It isn't marked by Jerry either. So I guess this is Gus. I guess it's like an audience question that's a typical question or something.
Oh, okay.
That's the way I think of it. But the question. It actually makes a little sense. It's not one we've really talked about so far, but I can see people drawing, the association that's built in here. The question says, my work is an adventure and I really do enjoy it, but when I tie money and earnings to my work, I can feel a tension that then takes the joy out of it. Do they not go well together?
Oh, I totally get this.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's similar to something that Louise has mentioned a few times, which is she really doesn't like doing things that she enjoys doing for a living, because then she ends up having to do all the business part and that takes all the fun out of it.
Right. Either that or I do a lot of things that are creative, and often the wheels in my mind start turning about how I could, make a profit off of it, right? Mm-hmm. How I could make it into a business, and it just completely takes the joy out of it, because it's not even having to do the admin, which I don't like. I agree with Louise on this. But it's the pressure of having to produce X amount of these things, whatever they are.
Well, I have my own response to this question, but I'm going to reserve it until I hear what Abraham's answer is. So what does Abraham say about this question?
Abraham says this is a common story that we hear from creative people who are involved in music or art that they love, but when they decide to make this thing they love, the primary source of their income, not only do they often struggle in making enough money, but their previous joy is diminished as well. Most people have a rather negative attitude about money simply because most people speak more often of what they cannot afford or the lack of the money they desire than they speak of the benefit of money. Also, most people spend much more time thinking about what is currently happening in their experience rather than what they would prefer to happen. And so without meaning to, most people are thinking rather lackfully about money. So then, when you couple an idea of something that you enjoy, your adventure, your music, your art, with something that you have felt strong lack about for a long time, money, the balance of your thought tips toward the dominant feeling. As you begin spending more time visualizing what you desire and less time observing what is, and as you then practice your more positive, better feeling story, in time your adventure will become the dominant vibration within you. And then as you couple your adventure with your means of earning, the two will blend perfectly and enhance each other. There's no better way to earn money than to do the things that you love to do. Money can flow into your experience through endless avenues. It is not the choice of the craft that limits the money that flows, but only your attitude toward money. That's why there are so many niche markets that are continually opening, with people becoming very wealthy from ideas that only recently were not viable markets at all. You are the creator of your own reality, and you are the creator of your own markets of enterprise and your own flow of money. You cannot accurately define some activities as hard and others as easy, because all things that are in harmony with what you are wanting are easy and flowing, while all things that are not in harmony with what you are wanting are harder and are more resistant. Anytime what you are doing feels like a struggle, you must understand that your contradictory thought is introducing resistance into the equation. Resistance is caused by thinking about what you do not want, and that is what makes you tired.
Abraham, of course, says it much more eloquently than what I had in mind, but yes, that's pretty much what I had in mind. And I'll even go a step further. I'll give an example. The example is Louise's gardening business. And in Louise's gardening business, she gets frustrated, like you do, with the administrative part. And for good reason, because it has gotten to the point where the administrative part is a nightmare. And I mean, I'm trying to take steps to help unravel that nightmare and smooth it out and so forth. But I've noticed it myself. When I get myself, right now, I'm much more immersed in the business than I was, say, a year ago, or especially more than 2 years ago. And I find that even as I go in with a positive attitude, I get so many opportunities to feel frustrated by what's going on. And there are a number of practical, real world reasons why these things are going on. I mean, there are just a number of inefficiencies that we haven't been able to iron out yet. But here's the part that I think is really applicable to what Abraham is saying. Despite the fact that I understand that I have to get into alignment first, and if I can get myself into alignment first, then I can start perceiving things differently, and things can start working better, and so forth. What I end up doing is I end up getting trapped in the what is of the situation. So all these what is of things that aren't working well, things that we're frustrated about, and there's so many headaches, too many things to keep track of, and this is no longer fun anymore. And lo and behold, I find myself telling the same story Louise has been telling me for years. Now, I walked in knowing that I had to be in alignment, and I still allowed myself to buy into the story. I was doing that yesterday. I was just realizing that as you were reading this passage. I was doing that yesterday.
Yeah.
So we get sucked in so easily to the story, and it's the story that perpetuates it. It's the story that perpetuates the craziness. Imagine,
and it's the deliberate new story that will free us from it.
Exactly. Imagine if the story changed to how you're going to basically be able to delegate all of that administrative headache to the universe in some way, and other people are going to be able to fix it for you. And now you can go back to doing the thing that you love, and you start telling that story over and over again until you really believe it, which can take a while. But you keep telling that story over and over again, all of a sudden everything shifts. Now, when I say all of a sudden, I don't mean like instantly. I mean like at some point in time, maybe over the next days, weeks, or months ahead, you reach a tipping point, and then all of a sudden it shifts. That's what I mean by all of a sudden. But it does.
And it happens. And sometimes it feels like it's all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially when things are working more smoothly, and then we look back and remember, it's like, oh, wow, this is so much better than it was. When did that happen?
Exactly. Yeah. I can give you another example of all of a sudden. All of a sudden, we're out of time. We've used up our hour. It's just gone. So we'll have to carry on the conversation this afternoon, but I look forward to doing that. I hope I can count on you to be here as well.
I will be here this afternoon.
Well, all right then. And I hope I hope our listeners will join us later on this afternoon as well, because we want to keep the conversation going. We want you to be a part of it. So join us later on today here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.